they treat the South Asians.
South Asians.
I mean, look, let's establish the fact that they call all of them Muhammad. Like that's like that in itself, just that alone, yeah. It's like, how dare you keep going to the country that you hate?
All-inclusive resort, really good. They actually, bro, the guy kidnapped my family for a bit at the time and drove off.
Or with Saudis that you meet, Saudi tourists that you meet. Now, I know they're not representative of the millions and millions of Saudi residents and locals. Some of the tourists that you meet, bro, in them. But if tourism comes into Algeria, you'll just see a Morocco 2.0.
Yeah.
Is the
You went Rwanda?
Yeah.
No way.
Bro.
Where everyone's getting deported.
Everyone's
You got a point.
bro.
I
If this
suppose.
was clipped up, this would be so taken out of context. Hello, assalamu alaikum, and welcome again to another episode of AAA Talks. This is your brother Muaz.
I'm safe.
And guys, we've had a crazy couple of weeks from the previous post on the racism video.
You know what? That was our best video so far. We've had almost 30,000 views on it, and the comments are crazy.
Best video in terms of numbers, I fully agree. But there is a lot of controversy and a lot of accusations against us. And we just wanted to address some of them. But first, let's just establish and identify the lack of the elephant in the room. There is no Yahya. Where's Yahya?
Yeah, he couldn't make it with us today. I mean, he travels from quite a distance as well. So, yeah, he was busy
So we
with
thought
work.
we'd hold it down. Yeah.
Yeah,
And here we are, holding it down for Yahya, for our temporarily fallen comrade. Anyway,
He'll be back.
yeah, I mean, where do we begin? We got Saudis hating us, writing in Arabic. Yeah, that was long to keep up with. We got Turks.
There was a whole thread on that, wasn't there?
A few threads. We had Turks that came out of nowhere.
I'm so shocked about that, by the way.
I'm extremely shocked. I mean, we're not even allowed to say Turkey anymore. It has to be Turkey.
I really don't understand that, bro. It's like you changing your name, and I've known you for 30 years as Muaz, and then, I have to call you something else now. I know you as that, bro.
I have the right to demand. I have the right to demand that you call me by my new name.
I think it was in year 3 I learned Turkey, bro.
You know what? It's hard to shake off. I'm sure.
When you speak to someone and you said you come back from Turkey. You can't say
Turkey. That's gonna take some getting used to, I have to say. But they've come out of nowhere. We even had DMs from a couple of Turks, Turkias. How do you say Turks then? But anyway, listen. We've had even DMs saying, how dare you speak about us? How dare you? Like, bro, it's mad. It's mad. But listen, shout out to a few of my Turkish friends, though. Got a lot of love for you guys.
I hate to say this.
I actually never said anything about Turks. It was him.
I came back from Turkey the other day as well.
You came back just recently from Antalya.
Yesterday.
How dare you keep going to the country that you hate?
All-inclusive resort, really good.
Really?
Yeah.
You know what it is, guys? Look, we mentioned personal experiences with people from different countries. I mean, and we just said that the most challenges that we found, of course, every country you're going to be presented with challenges. My country, Egypt, oh my God. You have to go through all sorts of problems when you go to Egypt. It's just part of the experience is to get absolutely destroyed and ambushed and just, you want to pull the hair out of your head. But it doesn't mean that, every country's got its problems. But Sayf just identified that the biggest problems that you faced was in Turkey.
Yeah, in Turkey, the question that you posed was, where did you find the most racism?
Yeah.
And you came up with, what was the answer you gave?
I said my ultimate, in terms of
Saudi.
Where I visited, I said Saudi.
Yes, Saudi.
I said what I've witnessed within the UK, I said Asians.
Right. And I said it was Turkey in terms of where I visited. And I think Yahya said, in terms of people he interacted with, was Palestinians.
Yahya said his worst experience was with a Palestinian and a Syrian. I don't think he mentioned the Syrian story.
No.
Well, maybe he could mention it, and that was a bit
But look,
wild.
my situation, about the Turkey situation, it was only 3-4 months ago I went there. And it wasn't beyond just a taxi incident that people were referring to and said I was an introvert, I didn't know how to socialize and things like that. That's why I think one of the comments was saying that.
Yeah.
But it was the whole experience from the airport, the attitude they gave. There was a situation where the lady in the airport, when she was checking me in to the flight return, she wasn't looking at me at all. She was being very difficult with everything, baggage, seats, whatever not. But then as soon as I left, I observed a Turkish man get there, and her face and demeanor completely changed. Now, to me, that's like, look, why are you acting one way with a foreigner and one way with your own people? You know.
I know what you mean. And then I remember, I will still pose the same question. Do you think that was a racism thing, or was that just a Turkish thing in terms of like, are they just very difficult with tourists, no matter who the tourist is?
That could be the case. I'm not completely... Look,
like, would they treat a European man with blue eyes the same way?
No, definitely not, because I observed that in Antalya this time. Because they even... imagine on a car hire, I went to hire a car and the guy was with somebody and I was next. Then somebody came after me, a white European woman, and whilst I was next, he was like, can you just wait a few more minutes? Goes to the person that was after me and goes for her inquiry over me. And you see that preference a lot.
Yeah.
You see that, but what I've heard as well, not only my experience,
that will happen in a lot of countries. But yeah, granted, I would agree with you that you would definitely get that in Turkey.
Not only that,
and I'm sure Turks themselves would admit that.
I think it's more to do with look, they have something against Arab people there. I know 2 people that have migrated there, that live in there. They're saying that they've and there were some of the comments as well in detail, giving an example of how it went. Imagine shops, they're trying to take off Arabic writing, because they said, look, it needs to be in Turkish. These are people that are living there, that have migrated there. I know a brother who migrated there, bought property, and then said, look, I'm trying to leave now. I don't like this place because they're racist towards Arabs.
Yeah.
Right?
Obviously, you have to remember, over 1 million Syrians came in.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like, I'm not excusing it at all. Like, well done to the government to allowing the Syrians to come in, the refugees. But it's a bit like how the English became so much more racist when all of the Eastern Europeans came. Remember, even Eastern Europeans came like 15,
I have
20
to be
years
fair,
ago.
right?
And I'm not excusing that as well, of course.
No, in fact, in Bangladesh, and I'll be fair, so I'll say my country, it's human nature, after all. The Rohingya people from Burma came in. Their native language is still Bengali, right? So they came into parts of Bangladesh from Burma because they were persecuted there heavily, right? People were getting burned, villages and whatever not. And they came in and they're living. I went to see the the camps there in, it's called next to Chittagong.
I didn't know
Cox's
you went
Bazar.
there.
Yeah, I went there some 5-6 years ago.
Is
bro.
it?
Yeah, I went to visit them. Subhanallah, bro. The situations I heard, rape stories in detail. I heard stories of babies getting burnt alive. The people there, you don't hear about this in the news. It's like off topic now. The Burmese Buddhists who are supposed to be peace-loving are like as violent as you can get. Bro. Yeah. Anyway, they all got kicked out. There's about a couple of million of them in the Cox's Bazar camps. Loads and loads, and really beautiful people, some of them. But the locals hate them. And I'm thinking to myself, why would you hate them? They're, they speak similar language. It's a bit of a different dialect completely. And, they're similar looking and everything. There's still racism there, bro.
Because they're foreigners at the end of the day.
Yeah. And so I'm not excusing the Turkish people for the Arab people, the millions that have come in, but I can understand because it's happened in my region of the world as well.
Interesting. And then obviously, you had the Saudis that were played the victim card. I think with Saudi, I think most people would establish that. And by the way, there was this big misconception that we were judging them off how they are in the Haramain. I think if you remove the Haramain, like in general, from your interactions in the airport with Saudis that you meet, Saudi tourists that you meet. Now, I know they're not representative of the millions and millions of Saudi residents and locals. Some of the tourists that you meet, bro. The way they look at you, the way they look down at you. And anyway, we know people. I know people, and I've seen it, witnessed it firsthand. The way they just treat the Egyptians, it's like they're second-class citizens.
I've heard of that.
And then, let alone the way they treat the South Asians.
Very bad.
Look, let's establish the fact that they call all of them Muhammad. That's like that in itself. Just that alone, is like wow.
Bro, I gave the clip of the person saying, "Look, these people." They're nothing compared to Arabs.
That was in the other podcast.
In the other podcast.
The podcast with Yusuf about Qatar,
And I saw some of the comments saying certain things as well, which we might get into. But, the Saudis, I remember, look, my granddad did Hajj back in the 60s and you went to Mecca, walked to Medina, and then went to Palestine as well. Wow. And they were telling me stories back then, the Saudis, how they were so humble and hospitable. They used to actually invite people inside their own house. Haji, come to my house and eat. Let me get some ajr.
Yeah, but by nature,
now it's just commercialized, bro.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
When it's so commercialized and things like that, people don't have that love, and they just
yeah. I mean, it's hard to judge them on how they are in the Haramain. It's those are very, very difficult jobs, very demanding jobs. Okay, you know, the Haji and all of that. You know, like the guy at the Black Soda that's just whipping people. but apart from, if you like I said, if you remove those who work in the Haramain, which is a very, very demanding job, generally speaking, if you meet them properly, wallahi, there are many, many good ones.
Of course, without a doubt.
And there are many good ones that will be like even anti their government, anti their kingdom, fully pro-Palestine, fully pro-Gaza. Very hospitable people. I think by nature, I'd say that out of all of the Arabs, the ones that have a genuine hospitable nature, kind of that old school kind of like, you know, I'm going to invite you to my house and this really is your house now, is I would say Khalijis in general are still like that. But unfortunately, you know, it's very hard to come by. And Western influence and the power they have, it's unfortunately the power and the money, the status they have really, really makes them look down at everyone other than their own. So sorry, just to conclude, it is a racial thing, but it's also a status thing. Like, I'm better than everyone else, basically. That's kind of their mentality.
That is that, but there's also one thing that I've noticed about tourism. It gets the worst out of people. And what you've seen, 100%. Look, even in Europe, in Spain, I've never seen this. This is unprecedented times. People coming out, marching on the street. I don't know if you've noticed. In Barcelona, get out tourists. In their millions, bro. Wow. They got placards. They're trying to kick out people. And these are British people as well. Yeah. White people going into Barcelona. And, Spain is a tourist hot hub, right? Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, why are they kicking these people out? And it sometimes gets the worst out of people 100%. When it gets to a very heavy level and 100%. Too much popularity.
Yeah, 100%. Tourism, that's so true, man. I think of Morocco, I think of Marrakesh.
Yeah.
I've been going there for work since 2014, and I was even going before that. And it's true, man. Tourism really does bring out the horrible side of a country. You look at Morocco, you look at the amount of prostitution there is, gambling, casinos, drinking, drug dealing. You know what I mean? Like, it's horrendous. It's horrendous, bro. It's actually disgusting. Like, it is not getting any better. It's only getting worse. And they'll blame tourism for that. Whereas you look at a neighboring country in Algeria, and it isn't known for its drugs.
Mashallah, you're saying good things about Algeria now.
Wait, I'm going to flip it soon. But they're not known for prostitution or drugs or casinos or drinking, or even the ones who are secular still have that kind of grounding in them. But if tourism comes into Algeria, you'll just see a Morocco 2.0. But you know what the funny thing is? In the previous episode, I spoke about the Algerian, the example of Algerians being racist, right?
Yeah.
And I brought up the little girl that just had that embedded racism in her since she was, 3, 4, 5 years old from her parents. But everyone in the comments, all the South Asians came out defending. Turks defended themselves. Saudis defended themselves. Black people from everywhere defended themselves. Algerians never spoke. Algerians never spoke. Did you see a single comment from Algeria?
I didn't.
Hundreds of comments on Instagram, the thousands of comments on TikTok, and the almost 1,000 comments on YouTube. I haven't seen a single Algerian.
I think they're just strong-headed, bro. They're not bothered.
I think they're just racist. They don't care. No, I'm joking. But let's address. Have you got some of the really? There's a lot of comments that got a lot of popularity.
Yeah.
As well.
So let's go through some of the top comments quickly. This one, the first one, it's towards you. Alex Raymond -EN4DD says the Egyptian guy is justifying some Arabs' racism towards Asians by saying it's because Asians look up to them. Firstly, not all Asians look up to Arabs. Secondly, even if they didn't, that wouldn't justify the racism. I don't know.
At no point did I say the racism is justified. That person just has an issue with selective hearing. Definitely.
Yeah, you didn't say that.
I definitely acknowledged that there are Arabs, of course, many Arabs that look down at Asians.
Yeah.
Whether it's in the Arab countries or even here as well. But my point that I was getting at was, if you didn't put them at such a high pedestal, maybe you'll get less racism towards you. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, that's
and I think someone
point.
commented saying, if you treat them like a celebrity, they'll treat you like a fan.
Yeah.
And that's a harsh reality.
But in Asian culture, a lot of the times they do revere to their sheikhs a lot. You've seen, when I was younger, there used to be people called firs. Firs are like saints, we used to call them. And, my parents sometimes used to say very strange things about them. So, amongst some of the Asian scholars and things like that, people, how they follow them, how they do things, they just literally go behind them and, I don't want to say...
Yeah, they'll drink the water that comes out of their hands.
Even leftover food. So they treat them like proper saints, yeah.
They'll treat them like prophets, bro. These are stories we heard of the Sahaba, bro. We heard that the Sahaba would do it from the water that drops off the Prophet ﷺ, and these people kind of do the same. They were like, I remember when Sudais came to Regent's Mosque. We're not talking about South Asians from back home who have like a lack of understanding. We're talking about guys in this country who should be on a higher caliber in terms of knowledge. Bro, these people were like touching his head, kissing it, like almost bowing down. Do you remember when he came to Regent's Park Mosque?
I remember an incident back in the days.
Bro, this is ridiculous. Like the truth is, you're not gonna get that kind of behavior as much with Arabs. That's what I'm trying to say. You might still get it, but nowhere near as much. And that's why I was saying they need to stop putting South Asians, stop putting Arabs on a high pedestal.
Yeah, no, I understand your point. But what I'm trying to say, anyone with knowledge, a lot of South Asians, especially when it comes to religious knowledge or religious practice, they revere to them too much. And we shouldn't be doing that, because the Jews and Christians did that, and they took their priests and rabbis sometimes as lords and rejected that the word of Allah over the priests and rabbis.
Yeah, you see that with like extreme Sufi groups as well.
Yeah. One thing we should clarify as well, because some of the comments, not a lot of them, said that we're talking about a fitna issue and we're causing...
Oh, yeah. We probably should have started with that.
Yeah, we should have actually.
Yeah,
look,
that's exactly what we're doing. I'm joking.
No, subhanAllah. Look, I think in my simple understanding, my binary understanding, yeah? Sorry, bro. Look.
You're let that one go.
I'm not, bro. The first racist was who? Was Iblis. Iblis was the first racist. He came up. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, listen, honor Adam and bow. All the angels bow to him. Angels can't refuse, but Iblis said, no, I won't. And if you look into the tafsir, he said, I am created from fire. And he is created from clay. I'm superior.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't do this. And Iblis, if you look in even more, bro, he was the most knowledgeable amongst the jinns. He was a saint elevated amongst them.
He was elevated,
yes.
to be on the ranks of angels.
But he became arrogant.
Yeah.
So racism in a
but
form
where did the arrogance come from? It came from racism. So racism was the cause and arrogance was the effect. So some scholars even say that the first sin ever was not arrogance, it was racism.
Wow, subhanAllah. So my point is, he was given respite. He asked Allah, give me respite till the day of judgment. So until the trumpet is blown, there is always going to be some form of racism, because there is always going to be arrogance. There's going to be evil and good. Yes? So we're trying to keep away and abstain from that evil. It's an evil if you think we're better than so-and-so, whatever race we are, even if we have more money, more position, more so-and-so. Because at the end of the day, and we've already said this in the last episode about the Prophet ﷺ's final words and last sermon.
No, look, it's important to establish, guys, that, this is a kind of podcast it's like, we are your average UK British Muslims that are just sitting together, having a bit of a chinwag, having a conversation, just like your conversations with your family and friends. It's not always going to be like 100% productive. Sometimes you're just going to chat, and and sometimes, the conversation might come up of, actually, who are your favorite people? Oh, actually, which people do you find most challenging? So the whole point was like, it was just kind of like a light-hearted conversation, but I understand, of course, that, we've now got like a platform and a presence, and we didn't expect 26,000 people to watch and then get
Over
thousands of comments. So obviously,
comments, yeah.
it's very important to take accountability, of course, and be responsible and say that in no way, shape, or form, of course, are we here to create fitna or anything. We're just having an open dialogue, open conversation.
And also these issues need to be discussed. You can't just brush them under the rug or
100%.
Yeah, you need to. It's happening a lot.
And shall I just say that a lot of the videos actually proved our point. Like when I mentioned that the story of the black brother that said that he found Asians to be more racist towards him than white people. Look what happened in the comment section. Loads of Asian people came out attacking. Loads of black people came out attacking Asian people. And it was just like, you guys are proving my point. Like, you know, let's try and be a bit more civilized. But if you see the comments, just people races attacking races, like left, right, and center.
So this comment got a lot of likes. It's called by Cure One, the Cure One. I think our scholars should start talking about the racism that exists in our Muslim countries. People misinterpret Islam because of our misbehavior. We're not perfect. Muslims aren't perfect, without a doubt. And a lot of things Muslims do aren't part of Islam. But yeah, do you think the scholars would discuss things like that? A lot of our scholars in this age, they talk about, I don't know, the fiqh of wudu or things like that, or salah, or, you know, controversial things they somehow avoid. Even like the issue of Palestine and things like that. It's big issues around the world. They try and... There's I'd say probably, not all scholars are coming out speaking about such big issues like that. But I think we're moving in a positive direction with scholars, with the online world, and scholars and mashayikh and da'is now are openly talking about relevant topics to us. And they might not be able to give that insight as well, because if scholars, for example, I met a
scholar living in Saudi.
Scholar living in Saudi,
telling you about racism. Like, you don't really live in a diverse country and if you do,
you're not going to know.
Saudis and Bengalis aren't mixing. Let's be honest.
But you're not going to understand. One of the comments was about super drugs and the lady not giving the change properly and things like that.
And apparently, like the Asian woman, like placed it on the counter and just said to the black guy, "Pick it up," like instead of putting it in his hand.
So we might need to discuss these things as well.
I think scholars and da'is definitely need to. Get more in touch.
Yeah, definitely. Here's a positive one by Dr. Code 8879. Indonesian and Malaysian Muslims are the most friendliest and humble people in the world. MashaAllah, may Allah bless them. And you know what? When you go Umrah, you see lots of Muslim types. And, you know, the Malaysians go in their little groups and, you know, even in Hajj and things like that, and the Indonesians. And I have noticed them to be, like... very kind. You know what I'm saying? Very humble.
Good character.
You won't see them pushing and shoving. You'll be like, they'll be the one patient waiting. And you've seen that even in the food courts, even in the queues and things like that. We end up judging each other.
They're civilized people, man. What happened to the rest of us? It's funny because sometimes we forget that the bulk of the Muslim world is actually in that side of the world.
Yes.
You're talking about hundreds and hundreds of millions. So mashallah. And there was another comment. Someone said something along the lines of that most Muslims don't consider Senegal, Niger, and what's the other one?
Mali
as Muslim. Like we forget that they are part of the Muslim world. I don't know, man. Speak for yourself, because I haven't forgotten. I'd love to visit.
This is a comment.
I'd love to visit Senegal.
Global Faction. Part of the problem is, and you got 96 likes. There's a lot of likes on this comment. Part of the problem is that most of you don't even include countries like Senegal, Mali, Gambia, Niger, etc. as part of the Muslim world. We're just add-ons when it's convenient for you.
No. Come on.
African people have even been called racist for bringing up the issue. Really?
Nah, come on, man. That's some victim mentality stuff. Come on, man. That's
Mali, Gambia, Niger. That whole West region is mostly.
Everyone knows that there's a majority. Those are majority Muslim countries. In fact, Senegal was like in the 90s of how many Muslims there are on the population. And I've always said I'd love to visit Senegal. I'd love to visit Uganda as well, by the way. Maybe you know what? Maybe he's talking from an angle of they're not seen as in Muslim tourism. You know, a lot of people, Muslim tourism has become a thing, right?
Yeah,
people are visiting Bosnia because of the Islamic element, because they were Muslims. People are visiting Albania, Kosovo, because...
and Turkey as well, bro. The reason I chose Turkey...
Turkey. No. But Turkey's always been...
there's a lot of Europeans, but I went there you got the halal resorts.
Yeah.
You've got halal food everywhere. When I go Europe, Spain, Italy and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I don't think...
veg...
Like Egypt, for example, I'd love to say people visit it because of the Islam in Egypt, but I'd say most people don't. But there are a lot of people that are visiting countries because it's like new and fashion. It's a new trendy place to visit, like Bosnia. So you never know. I understand that a lot of these African countries aren't visited from a tourism angle, and they should, because some of these countries are beautiful, to be honest.
No, without a doubt.
Like, for example, I went in Rwanda last year. Did you know Rwanda is the
You went Rwanda?
Yeah.
No way.
Bro.
Where everyone's getting deported.
Bro, do you know it's the cleanest country in Africa? Yeah. There's no litter.
No way.
Bro, it's a beautiful country. I wish I spent longer there.
I don't know much.
Beautiful.
Because I know about the war.
It's got a minority population of Muslims, but that's not my point. My point is that it's a beautiful country. I'd love to visit Uganda. I've been to Kenya and Tanzania. I'd love to see more of Ethiopia and Eritrea. I was only in Ethiopia for a day, which was like a long transit. But
I think those countries, they're not tourist hubs, and they might stay that way because some countries, their people don't want tourism like that.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Like Algeria. Yeah.
Like Algeria.
There's a comment here. Now, we don't have Yahya with us to back this up because it's about Somalians. And she got a lot of likes, over 50. Kahin 3557.
I'll respond on his behalf. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. You know. Sorry, I hear, bro. The term black is never used to identify ourselves in Somalia or Somaliland. We identify ourselves by tribes. Somalis are relatively new to the Western world, just 50 years, so we still hold onto our identity. There are many South Asians darker than us, I'm not, who are not deemed black. We simply refuse. We simply refuse to be pigeonholed by those who know nothing about us. However, now this bit didn't make sense. So all of that made sense. Then she goes, however, living in the West, it's appropriate to categorize ourselves as black. So at the start, she said never use black.
No. What she's trying to say is
because of our sons can be targeted by police. That's what she said.
I kind of see where she's coming from, but just with her original point, it makes a lot of sense, bro. Makes a lot of sense. Why aren't Sri Lankans considered black? Bro, they're black.
They're black.
They're black. Like Tamils and Sri Lankans, they're really dark.
But that black looks different to black. It does, bro. It's like a darky brown.
What, like a navy blue? What do you mean,
bro? No, bro.
Back in secondary school, people would be like, bro, you're so black, you're purple. Like, what the
I don't know, bro. That skin is different.
What do you mean that skin is different, bro? That's black.
Is it?
Yeah, bro.
Look, comment if you know what I'm trying to say.
That the black Tamils and Sri Lankans,
black Asians are different.
They're darker than majority of Africans, I would say.
It's like
Look at East Africa. They're brown. They're not black.
Maybe you got a point,
bro. If this was clipped up, this would be so taken out of context.
I know.
But no, I agree with her.
There's another one against me. I disagree about the statement of Turkey being racist. I'm a black man, and I loved it. And the people are amazing there. Look, I found the people there to be split. Some of them are very secular and, almost bum-licking Europeans and want to become Europeans. And they even have part of their land in Europe. And others are still trying to, withhold to Islam and be part of what they used to be their heritage and things like that. So, and when they see Muslims, they get very happy. In fact, when I had that taxi incident, the guy kidnapped my family for a bit at the time and drove off. And that's when I switched. And then...
Wait, what do you mean? You weren't in the car?
I was in a taxi. The taxi fare was 4 times the fare on the thing.
Yeah, I remember.
The guy drove off. We got to our destination, which is our hotel. And he goes, look, if you're not paying me the fare I want, then I'm taking you.
Okay.
Right? So he started driving off.
I thought you meant you went out and then he drove off.
No, I didn't go out. But when I switched and lost it, there was a really nice Turkish man that came with a beard, and he just softened the whole situation.
Did the beard play a role in him being nice?
I think it did. It was more practicing, bro.
Oh, so you're more practicing when you have a beard, yeah?
Could be. You're at least outwardly didn't. Your beard's grown, by the way.
The hijab, bro. I can't cut it.
Mashallah.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Any other standout comments before we wrap it up?
From Black Beauty and Smart 2849 said, "It's so sad that as Muslims we are having to discuss or have such debates. Racism is not Islamic." Yes, we agree on that. As the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam stated in the final sermon, it's the same thing. Mankind is from Adam and Eve, and Arab isn't superior over a non-Arab, and a non-Arab isn't superior over an Arab, and a white isn't superior over a black, nor is a black superior over a white, except through piety and good action.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then
but we're here discussing how that hadith was not implemented.
Yeah,
that's exactly what we're doing.
And they ended off with, let us all fear Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah.
So,
Ameen.
Yeah. Ameen. Inshallah.
I guess it's a good way to wrap it up. I mean, look, we live in London. I'd say the most diverse city in the world.
Yep.
And we're kind of blessed to come across all types of people. But there are those like living up north, for example. All they know is each other. All they know, like some Pakistanis up north, all they know are their fellow Pakistanis, maybe a few Arabs, a couple of white people. So, although of course I completely disagree with it, but you could understand how they're just so closed off. You could understand how that's caused them to become. I'm trying to look for a better word, but yeah, it's caused them to become racist. And likewise, there's because you saw online, there's a lot of black people that are being racist towards Asians as well.
Yeah,
so
that can't happen.
You could understand.
And I think one of the things you mentioned, and that was our parents on the children to play a huge role when you're growing up and things like that, and the experiences that we have. So, yeah.
So
maybe just
stereotypes as well. Stereotypes, it's hard to shake them off. You have to understand as well something that we haven't really touched on. It'll be better to get an expert to talk about it, but it's the systematic racism, towards black and brown people. Especially towards black people, to be honest, especially like in education, media portrayal, I would say, black people towards Indians as well.
But
justice system as well.
On the plus side, racism now is more complicated. Like back in the 60s, there used to be signs saying no blacks or dogs allowed on the front, or Irish. Something like that. And
it's still there, bro. It's just not. It's just very subtle now. It's very subtle. In fact, I think. Let me just. I took a few. I took a few notes from ChatGPT.
But we're better than America, I would say as well. America, I've seen some madness out there, man.
I think we are still doing much better than America.
Yeah.
But I'd say that. This is. I've got a few bullet points here though, which is interesting. So in policing and criminal justice, black people are over 7 times more likely to be stopped and searched by police.
Yeah.
This is taken from the Home Office website. What else? In education, black Caribbean pupils are nearly 3 times more likely to be permanently excluded from school than white British pupils. Again, this UK government data. This is clearly a role of they've been labelled and, they've got a target.
I mean, there is sometimes
housing as well, discrimination. Black African and Bangladeshi families are disproportionately likely to live in overcrowded and substandard housing. You look at those who died and got affected in Grenfell Tower, the majority of victims were from ethnic minority backgrounds. The disaster exposed how social housing residents, especially minorities, were ignored when raising safety concerns. You've got it in employment, CV name bias. We've got our good Tunisian friend that on his CV, his name is Ben.
Ben,
I've been there as well. I applied once for a Chinese company to teach English to Chinese students online. And my name was Teacher Max.
No way, bro.
Wallahi, bro.
My other name is Sam.
Teacher Max. And I airbrushed that picture. No, I didn't airbrush the picture. But CV bias is huge. Pay gaps as well. Ethnic minorities, especially Bangladeshi, Pakistani, Black African workers earn less on average than their white counterparts. So The point is in healthcare as well, immigration, media representation, the list goes on. The point is we're here at the bottom fighting each other, but the reality is, let's be honest, because of the systematic racism, it's not just white people racist against browns and blacks and ethnic minorities. It's the entire shape and structure of the entire country and policies and everything. The governing body is racist towards us.
Yeah, there's 100% truth to that, and I agree with you on that, bro. I think the system in itself has a lot of privileges for the white class or the native.
The white man.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said that in that accent, but yeah. Anyway, should we wrap it up?
Yeah, we'll wrap it up here.
Leave a comment below. No to racism. That's like a campaign advert.
Yeah, it's a campaign.
That's a bit
advert.
cringe.
Fear Allah.
No. Let's come on. Let's be creative.
Turkey.
Turkey.
Everyone start using Turkey, bro.
That's trolling Turkish people.
No,
yeah. So comment below Turkey. Yeah, make sure you get the spelling right and the little dash on top of the Y.
It's an effort.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Shout out to my Turkish friends. Yeah, Koray, Omar, Chan. You guys know who you are.
For real? Did you make them up?
No, wallahi, bro. They're my boys.
Oh, mashallah.
Yeah.
Mashallah.
Anyway, signing out. Muaz.
Safe.
Take care.